This is you. And me. This is us. Pretty soon, all of us will be wearing our cap and gowns walking across the stage. We will receive our diplomas and we would have finally graduated. Yay! Majority of us will be heading into some sort of post-secondary institution. Of course, this will make a huge impact on our lives. But what kind of impact will our attendance have in the post-secondary world? In this video, you will become more familiar with the world of an undergraduate life and know how the post-secondary experience affects the Canadian economy. First, I will group together contributing factors that the post-secondary education system could possibly have on the economy. Broken down, we will be looking at these four components: the education system, outside social economics, job/career opportunities, and student loans and debt. Within Canada's 280 post-secondary institutions contains 1.2 million university students and 702,000 college students. When these institutions become successful economically, a substantial amount directly impacts institutions and municipalities that are in the same region. Local governments are receiving many of the benefits as a result of these investments towards the education system. Billions of dollars are invested into education by the Canadian government every year. One way they provide over half of funding for post-secondary education is by raising taxes. A review from Economics 12 tells us that when taxes are raised, it influences more saving in our economy. This is an option that can assist in lowering inflation in places like Vancouver, for example. However, in terms of GDP, this cannot be counted towards determining how much the post-secondary experience impacts the economy. The tax collected is counted towards the spending of the taxpayer, not the spending of the post-secondary institution. It's not included into GDP because then it is considered double counting. Econ 12 review once again. With that said, public funding not through taxes can be counted and makes up roughly half of budgets for post-secondary institutions. Public spending and gross domestic product create revenue streams that leave behind a large economic footprint. To see the many levels of an education system impacting the economy, we can also view post-secondary institutions as franchises or enterprises, with its main lines of business being teaching and research. This may seem strange, but it will help us to understand things from a different perspective. When tuition and research funding is paid to the enterprise, they can begin to generate revenue. However, in order for those revenue streams to become successful, funding must also be contributed to gain extra financial value. This means that other components, such as community or environment, can add more value to the post-secondary institutions. For example, the University of Toronto's undergraduate enrollment from the Greater Toronto Area is approximately 80%. This is due to factors like location, product offerings, service, etc. Looking at post-secondary institutions as an enterprise essentially tells us that the flow of spending is a crucial part to keep institutions afloat. All Canadian universities and colleges back in 2009 had reported $37.4 billion in revenue. Right away, they spend almost all of the money to improve their institution or enterprise. This encourages the spending cycle to keep flowing. If a post-secondary student were not in class, doing homework, or crying over how tired they are most likely out and about in the neighborhood. Businesses such as hotels and restaurants are often hotspots for student activity. Much of the economic growth related to post-secondary education revolves around luxury student spending. The economic activity nearby communities benefit from comes as close to $17.5 billion. A mass amount of those savings comes from international students. Canada is known for its diverse community, so it is expected we have many students from all over the world coming here to study. In 2010, British Columbia and Ontario held almost 2/3 of Canada's international students. That year, international students in Canada spent $8 billion. This total is greater than the cost of exporting helicopters, airplanes, and spacecrafts, adding up to $6.5 billion. When translated to terms of GDP, it becomes almost a $4.2 billion contribution to Canada's economy, equal to 7% of Canada's overall GDP. Nearly all of those earnings is thanks to international students spending on tourist attractions and other auxiliary products. What lies after graduation comes employment. Post-secondary institutions are one of Canada's top employers, whether that be directly or indirectly. Vancouver's #1 largest employer, employing over 10,000, is the University of British Columbia. Despite this being the case, this only places some people in favor. Basically, if you have a university degree, you are the breadwinner in the community. Congrats. It is shown that degree holders will be earning $138 for every $100 earned. For people who do not have a post-secondary education, it becomes much more difficult to earn money, especially in today's society when work-labor force is facing skill-based technology changes. Now that our technology is evolving, machines are beginning to replace basic jobs performed by humans, meaning that only jobs that are in demand are ones looking for advanced and unique talents. Evidently, this will benefit post-secondary institutions. An increase of people attending school will occur, which will lead to more revenue earned. However, the dominant downside to this situation is a great deal of unemployment. Due to Canada's under and unemployment ratings, the economy will face over $22 billion in lost wages by 2031. Unemployed youth have impacted approximately 300,000 people in Canada's economy, prohibiting economic participation from young generations. The one dark cloud that hangs over all students is debt. This is mostly due to the high tuition fees that post-secondary institutions charge. Tuition fees have seen a national average inflation rate of 155% between 1990 and 2014. Students are seeing no signs of this rising trend stopping, so they often decide to take out loans. This can be viewed as an excellent way to help build the economy, as more transactions means more possible growth. Giving credit to those who cannot afford it encourages spending. Unfortunately, it is becoming more difficult to pay off student loans in our current economic state. Those students accumulate an average debt of over $28,000. If we were to compile all of Canadian students' debt towards the Canada Student Loan Program, it would be over $16 billion. To pay off student debt, some students decide to live at home rather than in our dorms or independently. Back in 2011, students who lived at home were paying an estimated amount of $55,000 for education. However, as inflation kept occurring, TD Economics found that children who were born in 2011 and were living at home will pay $102,206 for post-secondary education. Another way students have tried to compensate for debt is becoming employed. But as we learned, as technology takes over job placements, more and more people become unemployed. This is an extremely crucial issue our economy will face. Young adults are not being fully integrated into the economy. The increasing costs of post-secondary education fees are preventing those to participate in the economy. Instead of youth starting their lives by landing a career, buying property, and investing, students use majority of their income to pay off loans. Essentially, debt is cutting off economic stimulants at the source, making it more difficult for economic growth. The Canadian economy takes a toll from this concept of final instability. In conclusion, all of these factors combined creates a numerous impact on the Canadian economy. Canadian post-secondary institutions have compiled over $55 billion in economic activity. To make this number more easy to grasp, for every post-secondary education-related dollar spent, generates $1.36 for the Canadian economy. We will soon become little fish in the big pond of university life. Once we get into that pond, we will know how our swimming will impact our Canadian economy.